much for joining us today at RG Podcast. This is Isaiah Diesel here with a very special guest calling out of the UK, or excuse me, the UK, as they say. And Oliver, what part of the UK are you calling out of?
So I'm from central London, specifically northwest London. But yeah, it's pretty much all the same thing.
I love your accent, by the way.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's very weird and just different to speak to Americans. I used to have like a lot of American friends a while ago, but then a lot of them, yeah, just very, very weird to speak to some Americans.
So I have to ask all of my British guests, but do you have a British accent? Like, is your conscience also have a British accent? Like, no, don't do it, mate.
Yeah, funnily enough, I do actually. And I like consciously think about it sometimes of like which accent am I going to speak. Because it's in like different terms and in different things that you're speaking about. You speak in different parts of it, basically. It's also like when you're speaking to different people, you change your accent slightly. So yeah, I think everyone, I at least, I mean, I think everyone kind of has like an unconscious accent that they speak and like how they change their accent, like depending on where they're speaking.
Yeah. So do you? Okay. So if you're by yourself and no one's around, and you're like talking to yourself, do you also have a British accent?
Mm-hmm.
That's a joke. I'm taking a subtle jab at your. No, I it's funny. Like probably some of the most infamous atheists are from the UK, right? From England.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Dawkins, and I normally have an atheist co-host, but unfortunately I'm not able to contact them right now. But we have this running joke that it doesn't really matter what you say. Like you could just pick up the phone book, if they still have the phone books, and just read it in a British accent. You're gonna sound intelligent, right?
Yeah, that's very true. Like there's sort of different accents that sound really dumb and they just don't sound intelligent at all. But yeah, I mean it's kind of true. Like I meet so many people and they just seem really smart. Yeah, it's really weird.
All right, so we're gonna do a public service announcement. We're gonna do a public service announcement right now. I hope you don't mind participating, Oliver. So here's what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna say a bunch of British words, and you're gonna translate that into English for me, and then
Okay.
it could be slang, and then I'll say some American slang and see if you can know what that means. Okay. So if the Brits who are
Yeah, that's
listening,
fine.
they'll learn some English, some American English. Okay. What does the word bloke mean? Okay. What is the word bloke, and use it in a sentence?
The word bloke kind of just means like friend or person or guy. It's just referring to like anyone. It's really rarely used. Like no one really uses it that much. Um, yeah, I mean you could just say
Chap
I've got some blokes coming around, or like I've just got some mates coming around, basically. Like
or
no one really
chap.
uses, yeah, chap kind of.
Okay.
That's more like older sort of English. It's more like
Yeah.
the older sort of generation uses it, but it's kind of a term.
I see. All right. What about the word stitch up?
Um, I've I've never actually heard that word being used in a conversation. Um, yeah, that doesn't really exist
Really?
in like actual language. Yeah,
I
not
know what it
really.
means. So I guess if you were to say stitch someone up in America, it would mean to beat them up. But if you say stitch up to British people, it means that they're pulling like a joke, a practical joke on someone, or they're tricking someone.
Kind of like I've never really heard that being used before.
Okay. All right. What about a quid? Like quids. I have 5 quids. Not a
Oh, okay, so
squid.
yeah, so quid is a pound basically, or like
1 pound.
our version of currency.
And what is a
Um,
pound? Wait, and a pound, are you talking about pounds or are you talking about kilograms?
so
That's
pounds
a
is in
joke.
money. So yeah, we use the good system of how to measure stuff.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
But here's what confuses me, because you call it a pound, but there's no way that one of those notes, it's like a dollar. There's no way one of those is a pound. So why would you call it a
No.
pound? Like, why would you call like an ounce or something, or a gram?
Because that's our currency, man. It's just pound sterling.
I'm just winding you up. Okay, what does winding someone up mean? What does that mean?
Yeah, we were talking about
Left?
money, just like our
Okay.
versions of currency, basically.
And pence, what do you guys use? You guys also use pence too?
Pence, kind of. We just call it like 1p, or if you have like a pound 50, you just call it like £1 50.
So that means like cents, right?
Yeah, yeah, pretty
Okay.
much.
All right. Now I'm going to give you a few English ones, and let's see if you know what that means. What does it mean if you give somebody the business?
Um, I've no idea. I've never heard that before.
Okay, it means you could beat them up, or you go to, or it's the same expression, go to town on someone. Like if you
Okay
beat
then.
someone in a game or something, say I gave that person the business. Okay, last one. What does kick rocks mean?
Um, I have no idea.
All right, so kick rocks means to go home or just like go somewhere. Because normally you think when you're walking, you like to kick rocks. So
Yeah, sure.
anyway, those are a few expressions now that you know.
Okay.
We say bucks for quids
Hmm.
in America. So, okay. So that being said, we want to start off. I want to ask you, what is your religious worldview?
Um, okay. It's kind of different and interesting. I think it's not very like common in a way because I'm kind of like part Jewish. I'm part Buddhist, essentially. It's like my my philosophy and the way that I live my life is very in a Buddhist sense. And the way that I live in kind of a cultural sense is Jewish. It's sort of like split between the two.
Hmm.
So
So you got a
um
split personality.
yeah, in a
Just
way, like
joking.
it's very like two different things of like one thing is like what my morals and values are. The other one is sort of a thing that I kind of just have, and it's more like the culture than the religion.
So okay, so let's start off here because I'm interviewing a Jewish man on a series of interviews, and he was just telling me about the Ashkenazi Jews, which are like the European Jews,
Hmm.
right? So that's what your family is,
Yeah.
and that's your mom and your dad. They go to the synagogue and everything.
Hmm.
Okay, all right. And so were you mitzvah?
Yeah. Yeah. So
Okay,
I was born and raised, and I went to two Jewish schools, um, and I had the 13th celebration, all of this sort of stuff. And usually that's when people start to just go out of touch with it, and then they just fade off, and
yeah.
just do whatever they want.
You know, interesting. So I stayed with this guy in Japan, and he's a
Hmm.
Jewish man, and he told me that whenever he got mitzvahed, is that like properly the past tense, like bar mitzvahed? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
okay, so whenever he got bar mitzvahed, he told his dad, like, I think I don't believe, or something like that. His dad asked him if he believed, and he said, like, from that point on, like, he never really stepped foot in the synagogue again
Mm.
because, yeah. So I guess, okay. So how many under because the Jewish guy, the Jewish man, also told me this that they see that as you becoming an adult at the age of 13. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Okay. So that's kind of like we say in English, like a maybe in Christianity, like the age of accountability. So it means like you can understand things that are
Kind
right
of.
and wrong.
Um, yeah, it doesn't really mean like kind of the same thing. It's sort of just um it's supposed to be like a spiritual thing that you do because you read and you learn a lot of like religious scriptures and then you basically kind of perform it in a sense of like you'll go on onto like where our synagogue is, we have like the main sort of service place that we have, and you'll go and read a bunch of Hebrew to like it's really really strange to like explain, but basically what you do is you read and you learn a bunch of scriptures and then you basically recite it back in a
Right,
service,
right.
and it's kind of a performance, it's kind of not, and then that's like the actual part of it, and then the rest of it, of what it's turned into, which I really, really hate, is the whole party and the other side of it. Because you have 2 days, you have the Saturday, and then normally you have it on Sunday after. If you have the actual religious thing, and then you have the celebration, the party around it.
That would be the good part. I'd be celebrating all over. But I guess you're only 13, so you can't really drink, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, the thing that I really, really don't like about the party side of it is that it used to be you would just have a bunch of friends back to your house, or maybe you'd have like a venue or something like that. But the way that it's sort of turned into now, and the way that it works, is it's basically just a massive show of money, of who can make the most extravagant and just stupid party that you have. Because a lot of the Jews, especially around Northwest London, just throw these ridiculously big and stupid
Right.
parties. And I've actually worked at a lot of these because I do live events and I do music. So it was the way that I used to make a lot of money.
Do
I
you
would basically
sing?
just go and help out at these venues, and I'd go and help out these places.
Do
And
you
you have
sing?
people spending. What was that?
Do you sing?
Yeah, I do guitar and vocals.
Okay.
But I basically just go and like do the backstage kind of things of like setting everything up and like doing all these big venues. And we had like 2 or 3 times when people are spending like over £50,000 at a
Wow.
party to just go and show
Wow.
just how much wealth they have.
Wow.
Yeah,
So, but I heard that you get money from people, right?
yeah, yeah, kind of.
So
That's
so
that's also the other thing of like, it's just who can give as much money as possible to another person. And it sort of just turns into a betting war, and it just turns like the actual celebration itself has just lost all meaning and all touch. It's really just the party
uh,
that matters nowadays, and I
uh,
really don't like that.
that's okay. That's good. I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian, correct?
Hmm.
But what happens in a lot of church services and denominations is it becomes like we say like a pissing match, like who can piss the farther. But actually, you guys use when you say you're pissed, it means something totally different, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Piss means drunk for you, correct?
yeah. That's true.
Yeah, so pissed for us means angry, but also like it's a very crude term for peeing. Just means like who it's like we call it like beating our chest, right?
Okay.
We want to beat our spiritual chest. So people will pray the loudest, they'll clap their hands louder, they'll wave their hands.
Okay.
They want to appear more righteous or more holy. So they very frequently will look at other people and try to point out their sins. And you'll find like a lot of gossiping and stuff like that going on in church. And so if people have not grown up in the church, I don't, I kind of envy them because would not, you wouldn't miss a lot of the stuff that you find inside of a church. Let's say that much. So,
Hmm.
okay. So by the way, have you been on your birthright trip to Israel?
Yeah, I've been quite a few times. I've got family like on the West Bank and like in the Gaza Strip at the moment. So yeah, I've been there like 3 or 4 times so far.
Yeah. I spent a month there. It got
Mm.
a It was very interesting. It was very interesting. So, okay, so the next question is how, okay, so let's try to answer these in succession. Okay, one,
Hmm.
what's kind of like a deconversion that you're going on? Because I understand if you're 17 years old, which you are, um, I, most 17 years old, if you're young guys, you want to play sports and you know, chase women or chase girls, I should say. So how do
Yeah.
you even begin to start to get interested or rejecting religion? So like, where? Tell me about that story.
Okay, so I think rejecting religion is something that most kids do. I don't know if that's in most religions. I know it's very much in Judaism. Um, Most of it comes from first of all the rules, and second of all the school that I went to. Because the school that I went to, you had to wear the skull cap, or like the couple that we wear.
Yarmulke?
And
You
like
mean the yarmulke?
yeah, yeah, like the little yarmulke that we were. So we always had to wear that the entire time that we were there. And um, like I was very, very good friends, and my mentor was the deputy head. He was a rabbi, and I basically said like, hey, look, you know, I understand that this is like respectful and it's a culture and it's a thing that we do, but respectfully, like it's my belief that I don't want to wear this, and it's my freedom of choice and it's my freedom of expression to not wear it. And he basically said, okay, well, look, you signed up to this school, so you have to do what we say, or you're getting thrown out. And I was like, okay, doesn't really make sense, but whatever. So there's a lot of things where it's just like, okay, we don't really care what you think or what you believe
Right,
or what your
right.
personal freedom is. You're just going to do this thing. And there's so much of that in Judaism.
So, right. Oh my God. And I heard the whole thing about like you wake up and you have to wash your hands before you can touch your eyes or something like. You have to wash your left hand or your right hand. Which hand is it?
Yeah, yeah, there's a bunch of weird and just strange rules that just don't make sense.
So okay, um, okay, yeah. So that's the thing. Okay. So one, okay, I understand that as a kid, right? Two, how did you get involved with Buddhism and like that seems like what age would you say you kind of like had enough of it and
Yeah, so I think it was really about 15 or 16 that I started getting into that. Um, Basically, I went to hospital for about 8 months or so.
you went to the
Um,
hospital?
yeah, so I was in there for about 8 months or so, and I was in
What
there
happened?
like an inpatient. Um, so my mental health was getting really, really bad at that point,
Uh-huh.
and I was admitted to this hospital, and I learnt a lot, and I got out probably a lot sooner than I should have, and then I started my college year. So I started learning music, and I started really, really getting into it, um, and yeah, it was just a lot, and I was overworking myself a lot because a lot of what happens when you're in hospital is you get taught like how to lie essentially, because
Mm-hmm.
we have this thing where you get checked up on every either 15 minutes, 5 minutes, or you have someone with you the entire time, or like a one-to-one basically. And they have these checks and they come around to you, they're like, hey, how are you doing? And like after a while, it just gets really annoying of even if you're okay or if you're not, you always just say, yeah, you're fine. And it sort of just gets baked into the experience, and that's what everyone has there. And then after you're outside, you don't really adapt back to it, to being like, okay, um like I'm back in reality and I don't really need to like pretend anymore. But then it still just carries on. So I found that I was just doing whatever it is, and I was never saying no to any experiences or to anything, and I was just overworking myself a lot, and I ended up back in hospital, um and then just really like questioning a lot about, you know, what's my life meaning, like what do I want to do, what makes me happy, like how's the world come into existence. um and then I found a lot of peace, and I found a lot of answering by the practices of Buddhism.
Okay.
um and the way that I try and explain it and the way that I practice is essentially, um like a computer is a tool and learning how to walk is a tool. It's the same way that you know how to do a sit up or a press up. You don't then go and learn the entire history of it and how to exactly do it and do it for a university degree of how to do one press up.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically just a tool and a thing that helps you in life.
What are you
So
talking about when you go down and you go like that?
yeah, 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 yeah,
Okay, so
pretty
we
much.
call that a push-up. Okay, just
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
okay.
um so basically I watched like a lot of podcasts and I listened to like a lot of YouTube videos about Buddhism. And then I kind of just left it because I've learned all the things that help me. You know, there's obviously, you don't learn an entire religion, but I've learned enough that helps me and that puts my morality at ease. It just puts me and it just calms me down basically. And it just helps me with life and everything.
So I went through a divorce about 10 years ago to my wife, and we're remarried now after
Mhm.
I found Jesus Christ. But I do know that the meditation and can be very helpful,
Yeah.
and because it helped me in a very low point of my life. So, do you do meditation, or what kind of rituals have you replaced? Because I've never seen some of them were kind of ridiculous. So, have you gotten any additional rituals or meditation?
Yeah, so there's kind of three things that encounters pretty much everything that I live and what helps me in terms of meditations and spirituality. So there's the four practices, which is be happy, be healthy, don't hurt yourself and don't hurt other people.
Right.
And it seems like a really just, like a middle-aged white mum thing to say, but it's basically in every way that you can, you need to be happy. So that means you can't really be around other people that aren't happy. You can't really be around people that are doing drugs or that
Mm-hmm.
don't have
Mm-hmm.
jobs or that are really shit in their lives. You need to be as healthy as possible. So I've completely quit smoking, drinking drugs, caffeine, energy
Wow.
drinks, fast food, all of this
Wow.
sort of stuff. Um, because that's the way that I can be as healthy as possible. Also doing a lot of exercise.
What about a
And
meat?
doing yeah, I still eat meats.
Okay.
I'm a very strong believer in eating meats and killing your own food. Um, so I'm sort of like the other end of veganism, which is very also prominent in Buddhism.
So you kill your own meat?
I'm basically just about to start hunting because
Okay.
I've been on sort of a journey of like, um, is eating meat okay? Is it not? And I've basically come to the conclusion that factory farming is pretty bad, and I want to start hunting and killing my own meat and then having that.
Are
Um,
there areas around London you can actually do that?
mhm, yeah, yeah, it's pretty common. So I'm just in the works of finding that and then finding like a hunting club to go and get like a
Okay.
gun license and then to go and start all of that. Um,
Huh. I thought you couldn't have guns in the UK.
yeah. So it's a very, very common misconception that you can't have one at all. It's very, very hard to have one. Um, it's basically just for ex-police officers, security services, and special forces. But you can basically go and buy one, and then you can go and leave it at like a hunting ground or a gun shop or like a shooting range, essentially. So you can't have it in your house under
Oh.
very, very specific circumstances. And
Oh.
things like concealed carry just doesn't exist.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So, all right. Okay. So now I have that information down. All right. Okay. So if someone's listening and they want to try meditation,
Mhm.
what is the process of meditation that you would recommend? Because I know there's several different ways to meditate, and I'll
Yeah.
tell you the one that I learned. So basically, I lie down. Um, I completely turn off all the lights. I in fact even put on like a blindfold, and I put in earplugs so that
Yeah.
it's like a sensory deprivation. And so I literally try to think about nothing. And what I mean
Mhm.
by nothing, I literally mean the word nothing. I imagine myself in a movie theater staring at a black screen that literally just says nothing in very big white letters. Because to not, it's actually a lot harder than people actually think. Like literally try to go 1 minute, try to go 10 seconds with literally thinking about nothing. It is next to impossible because your mind is like it's like a vacuum. So if you don't put anything in it, like things will rush in, right? So
Mhm.
for that, it just helps me to focus on the literal word nothing. And another way that I've heard this explained is that it's similar to is if you took a bottle of water and then you put a bunch of sand in it and you shook it all about, or like a snow globe, where everything goes flying everything everywhere. And if you just sit it down and just let it sit, everything will go down and it'll become more clear. So it's essentially the same kind of principle. So what would you say is your kind of ritual for how long and what do you do?
Yeah. So there's three main things that I advise to literally everyone. I'm like the opposite end of like sort of evangelical Christianism and trying to enforce it on everyone else. But everyone that tries to speak about it and ask me about it, I really, really advise it.
Uh-huh.
So the first one that has sort of just changed everything for me. Um, like I used to have really, really bad back problems from just
Hmm.
sitting down at a desk all day, and just having really bad posture. I'd also do a lot of exercise, and my muscle would be really, really bad. And you realize that your body's a lot more tense than everyone thinks it is. So you have a really, really cold bath, or you have I don't know, a pool, like a plunge pool or something like that, or just something where you can get really, really cold in a body of water. Then you do the opposite end of it in just like a hot tub or like a really hot bath. And you keep on switching forwards and back and forwards and back until everything is just completely numb. And when you're thinking about that, basically the entirety of your mind is just thinking about how cold or how hot are you. And then it doesn't really give you the space to think about anything else. So it's like unconsciously thinking about nothing. So I try and do that as much as possible. There's really no limit to it, of just the more you can do it, the better it is, essentially. So that's sort of the main thing that I do.
So there is, have you ever heard of a public, a Korean public bathhouse?
I think so.
It's called Jimjilbang. They actually have them like in
Um,
Turkey, where you can go and you can take like baths. You ever seen like Turkey?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so you basically go in there and you get naked, and but one of the things they have, because a lot of Koreans are Buddhist, right? Are you familiar with that?
Not particularly, no.
Yeah. So well, it's Asia, so like China,
Hmm.
just a popular thing. Anyway, so they have these really hot baths and really cold baths, and I like to do that. People do that. They go back and forth, back and forth. So I've never heard of that, but that's more for just like relaxation, because
Yeah.
apparently like it shocks your body. It shocks, your muscles and everything. So yeah, you ever seen the video of the guy who immerses himself into freezing water? He might even be a Buddhist, because it's some kind of form of meditation. He goes into
Hmm.
ice and stuff. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I think so.
He's apparently like hasn't been sick in like 30 years or something like that. So it's
Yeah,
amazing.
are you talking about Wim Hof?
What?
There's a guy called Wim Hof. He's basically like mastered essentially body temperature and regulating heat and through meditation, essentially.
I'm not entirely. He's a white dude, has a big old beard.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah,
okay,
same
so
guy.
it's the same. Okay, but actually, it's not just that though, because so I think in the Himalayas, I've seen things in the Himalayas where men, they go to meditate and they take these freezing freezing how do you call it, like they take sheets and they wrap themselves in these freezing sheets, and remind you, it's snow everywhere, and within a couple of hours they're able to change their body temperature to the point where it's literally like steaming off of these.
Yeah,
Have you seen that before? It's quite
yeah, I've
amazing.
heard a lot about that.
So do you know anything about that?
Yeah, so that's essentially just a different kind of breathing to regulate different things, because you can essentially focus different parts of your breathing into different things. So you can specifically find like different bones in your body that need healing, or there's different muscles. It all sounds very, very hippie and just like wacky stuff, but yeah, it basically works really
Yeah,
well. Of
it's that can't be just hippie, because if that were the case, these guys would not be able to do that.
Yeah,
It's just as
yeah,
simple as that. So some Christians get like upset about things like that, if I think that there's some validity to this, but it's just, you can't argue with facts. You know what I mean? Like
mm,
you really can't. There's no way to get around that your mind is capable of doing things that you just wouldn't believe is humanly
yeah, of
possible.
course.
These, they call them yogis, right? Yogis, like the guys who do like
Hmm.
yoga, do meditation. They are capable of doing some amazing feats, and
Yeah,
that's just true. It's not a matter of my opinion or anyone else's opinion. Whenever you're able to harness your mind, like I think your mind is a lot stronger than most people would ever even imagine. Like it could do things that if you, oh, like Darren Brown.
hmm,
Yeah, so Darren Brown, he I've seen one of, and I'm not sure if how much some of this might be some trickery behind this, but I saw him do something where he was counting cards for blackjack. And what he was doing was he imagined himself in like this old Victorian house, and he had put like 4 stickers on every he put 4 stickers on every one of these items. And each of these items was like the ace of diamonds was like, let's just say like ace of diamonds was like a cup. Okay. So he put like 4 stickers on that. And every time it would come up, he would take off one sticker off of that. And he was able to memorize all the cards that were in there. And have you ever heard of somebody by the name of Kim Peek?
Yeah, Tim Peake.
Kim Peek. So he's the inspiration of the movie Rain Man. So it shows him in Rain Man. He's able to remember exactly the cards that were in a deck, and he goes to the casino and he wins a bunch of money. And this guy does that same thing. He memorizes all the cards and he goes in, counts the cards, and just cleans out the casino. So yeah, our brains are capable of doing some amazing things. One other thing I saw him do on there, which was insane. It was completely insane. He's like not even that good at chess, and he goes in and he asks these like 9 grandmasters. He's like, okay, I'm gonna play all you guys right here, right? And he goes, I'm gonna beat at least half of you. So he sits down and he goes around, and it's called a simo. Okay, simo means like you play like a bunch of people at the same time, like Bobby Fischer or Spassky or
yeah, I've seen that before.
So he goes through and he beats 5 of these guys. Okay, he loses to 5 of them. He loses to 4 of them, and he wins to 5. And what he did, it shows. I got to put a link to this in there. What he does is he puts them in his mind against each other, and he goes around. And he's playing their moves opposite to each other, right? So he's moving one time he's playing in black, and the other one he's playing in white, and he just has paired them all up in his mind, and he's memorized all of these games, and he's just going around making all the moves. It's just insane. It's an insane feat. So what do you think about that as far as unleashing the potential of the mind, and if Buddhism is a good route for that?
Yeah, I think how society's structured at the moment, how everyone's living at the moment, for the majority of the world, isn't really the optimum and maximum potential for what our brains can do. There's been so many different studies to basically show that how we're living at the moment just isn't how we should. We really should just be in nature, foraging for our own food, making our own houses, killing our own animals, and sitting at a computer and doing emails all day isn't what we're designed for. It's just not what we're made to do. And we're made to do other things. We're made to be physical. We're made to stand up, and we're made to exercise. Like the fact that like obesity rates are skyrocketing, and how the poorest people in our countries are the most obese, and they have the most diseases,
Right.
and everything of this basically shows you how wrong we're living at the moment. And it basically shows you that there is potential, there is options for this, in the exact same way that you're talking about how Tibetan monks go and they have like frozen sheets on them, and then they go and sit, they do nothing, they take no drugs, they take nothing, and then they make all of the water and everything evaporate off of them themselves.
Right. I've seen
shows you, like, it's the exact example of it, of you can basically see who is optimal, who is kind of prime in their mind and in their body and experiences. And I don't believe there's any people, there's very, very few people in the Western world that are in the prime of their body and their mind.
Yeah. I gotta say something to you, and this is not meant as offensive to you, but there's really only so far I could have a conversation with you, because you are quite a bit young, and you still need to go out and experience things in life with loss, triumph, failure, losing your parents and things like that. There's a whole other spectrum of life where you can mentally learn stuff, but then there's going out and experiencing things, right? So I would say that for any 17. This is not picking on Oliver, but any person, there's just a life experience that you got to experience, right? But that being said, when when I was 17 years old, which is 22 years ago, there was no TikTok, there was no Facebook, there's nothing like that. Say, so if I was 17 years old today, I would be trying to use TikTok to hook up with girls, or so I think you are probably about 10 years, at least 10 years ahead of me mentally. I can't even believe, honestly, that you would even be thinking about some of these things, because at that age, really the only thing I was worried about is trying to drink or trying to get some pornography or something like that. So you're on a really good trajectory, bro. I hope you don't.
Thanks, man.
I hope you don't find that offensive that I'm saying that. Just,
No,
you know
not at all. Not at all.
I'm a father. I've got to travel. I've got to travel the world. I'm a husband now. Like being, for instance, here's just one thing: being a parent will totally change the way you see the world. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
losing your mom is going to totally change the way that you see the world.
Yeah.
You know
I think everyone has their experiences with growing up and being mature, essentially. Like basically, to come back to the point I started off with, like before we started recording, with my brother. I don't really see him as my brother. I don't really see him as someone that I'm related to. He's kind of just a person that has, you know, the same last name as me, and we happen to live in the same house, or we used to. He's really, really immature, and he hasn't had a lot of the life experiences. And I don't really want to get into the whole thing of it, but basically, he's about to turn 20, and he hasn't really got the maturity and like the life experiences as other people, or that I've sort of had. That's not to say that anyone's worse or better. It's just that the way that I see him, the way that I've understand who he is, he's basically just someone that hasn't really had a lot of life experiences and a lot in their life, essentially. And that's exactly what it is.
So there's one word I would describe both you and him as, and this is going to sound a little offensive, but I would call both of you guys zygotes. Like you are at the beginning stages. You're like, I wouldn't even consider you guys fetuses. And this is, again, this is any 17-year-old. This is any 20-year-old. In South Korea, let me tell you this, in South Korea, when men turn at 20 years old, they got to go into the military for 2 years. Okay. So what winds up happening is they wind up graduating college like at 24, 25 years old. Okay. So that little delay right there is, I think it's very crucial for them being in school and they're so successful in school and have such high college graduation rates. Now, because I went to school whenever I was 18 years old, and I can tell you, I learned nothing my first, maybe even my second year, because I'm saying, like, guys, first of all, we're less mature than women. Okay, so that's just a fact. Two is that you don't reach your full like mental maturity until you're in your 20s, you know? So, and most guys, I'm telling you this, dude, I'm telling you as clear as day, because I didn't start to grow up till I was 29 years old, and I got divorced. You know, I was 29 years old and sleeping around. I had a wife, and I had a girlfriend, and I cheat on my girlfriend. So that's like my mentality, you know. I had a very immature mentality. So I am actually impressed beyond words, even hearing you articulate some of these things. It's almost impossible, honestly, but in my opinion. But that being said, you know, I've got to travel, you know, the world. I've lost my mom. I've lost all my grandparents. I've lost some cousins. So when you experience that kind of loss, and you'll, at some point, and at a future time, I really hope that you'll maybe listen to this podcast again and what I'm trying to tell you about this, because you'll understand that you have a limited amount of time with everybody around you. Okay. And you never know when that's going to be, because my mom died on my birthday 14 years ago. And the last time I ever saw her, I told her I didn't believe in Jesus Christ, and it broke her heart. And 4 months later on my birthday, she wound up dying. So she never got to see me come to Jesus Christ, and she never got to see me be a father. My daughter will never know my mother. And so when you understand that, and you understand that people deal with all kinds of stuff, Oliver, that you have no idea that they're dealing with
Yeah.
in their own life. And so when
Yeah,
you
dude, I get you.
understand that, yeah, you understand that, then you can
Yeah,
learn
I think
something
I
now.
might get a part of that. I've had about 8 friends that's committed suicide that I've been quite close to.
What?
I've got, yeah, I mean, being in the hospital system, you know so many people that are just so on the edge of this. Like half of the people that I knew were just beyond help. Like just nothing could have happened for any of them. Um, but then you do have some people where you're just like, this wasn't the right thing. And it's really, really difficult to deal with loss. And I'm just about to lose my grandfather. So he's in a care home at the moment, and I know it's coming pretty soon. And like it's never like okay, it's never like I can deal with it. I think it's easier that I've been through it quite a lot. But yeah, I see what you mean about it. Like I still haven't lost anyone that's like, my brother or someone like extremely, extremely close to me, but I've dealt with it in like a lot in the past.
See, the thing is, I have a brother who's 13 years older than me, and we're half brothers. So there's just a whole generation gap where we have virtually nothing in common. And he's gonna have the opportunity to travel overseas, so he's in a very limited perspective, and so I can't project the things that I've learned onto him. It wouldn't even make sense. It's like this. It's like if someone had gone to Mars and it was space travel, and they come back, and I'm not going to be able to relate to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
They're out there
yeah.
meeting aliens, and that's as far as my brother's concerned. I'm on a different planet over here. So anyway, I hope maybe you think about that later. And again, this is a maturing process. I think if you and I were to have this conversation when you're 25 years old or 30, it would be a completely different conversation. And so that's the thing, when you realize that it's a growing process. If I were to talk to myself in 10 years from now, I am beyond positive. In 10 years, I will say I knew absolutely nothing in this stage of my life. I'm positive. If I were to go back and talk to myself 10 years ago, the 10 years ago self, before knowing Jesus Christ, before being reunited with my wife, before being a father, he wouldn't be able to accept the things that I can accept now. So we're on a learning stage. And I just do want to say this. How do you think that Buddhism helps people to, because I actually do believe this. I do believe that Buddhism can be a coping mechanism to deal with people's suffering, because this idea that you need to transcend it, and that you're going to experience the pain, you're going to experience the hurt, you're going to experience loss, and achieving the nirvana, maybe you can describe this as you want. I want to give you this opportunity, but is like rising above it, like superseding it, overcoming it. And what are your thoughts on that?
It's a lesson that every person in the world, especially in the Western world, need to be taught. That there is suffering in the world, and for a large majority of it, you can't do anything about it. I know there's nothing I can do that's gonna stop my grandfather from dying, and I just have to accept that, and I have to do as much as possible to make that process okay. There's things in the world that I can change. There's things like my close friends that I can try and make better. I can try and make them happier and healthier. So I think there's all of understanding that there is a lot of suffering in the world, and there's some of it that you're okay with, and there's some of it that you have to just accept. There's some of it that you're not okay with, and there's some of it that you can and can't change, basically. So I think with the things you can change, do as much as you can. With the things like, war and corruption and global warming, there's nothing really myself that I can do about it.
So I will tell you this, I am a Christian, but if I wasn't a Christian, I would be a Buddhist. If I had to choose a religion, I even went down and stayed at a monastery with the monks, and got to dress like them and learn about them. And I asked the Zen master something about nirvana, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you'd make a good monk," because of my hair. And that was pretty funny. But I do think, I genuinely do think. So as a Christian, I do believe Jesus Christ is the correct way, and I do believe that this is the right way. Okay. That being said, prior to being a Christian, I did go into Israel, and I did stay at a mosque, and I did learn about Islam. And I think knowing Jews, knowing Muslims, knowing Sheiks, Hindus, like I know that as a Christian, I can learn valuable lessons from these people, even about God. One of the things, one of the things that I learned while being a Muslim, well, not being a Muslim, but while learning about Islam, is that when they do their prayers, they take this water and you got to like inhale it, and you got to clean your ears and your hands, and you even rinse your mouth out, and it's like really cold water. So after you do that, it gives you this sensation of being like a new person. It's amazing. It's an amazing feeling. And so for them, they pray 5 times a day because they're confronting themselves at every point of the day. Like you're in the morning time, in the evening time, at lunchtime, you're like, what am I doing? What am I thinking? What am I sinning? And so taking that, another one about Buddhism that I thought was fascinating was the Zen master told us that he did the 10-step bowing, because people think you're bowing. Like, no, it's not bowing. There's like 10 steps to it. It's like literally 10 steps. And each one of those steps, like, it's like bowing is like a 10-second process, 10, 12 seconds. You do it slow, and you have these rituals. So they taught us, we bowed like 100 times, and it took like 10 minutes. Okay. So the Zen master told us that he bowed for like 10,000 times, and it took like all day long. And he said he did that for like 100 days. And I was like, dude, why would you bow all day for 3 months? I was like, that seems like a really big waste of time. So, and then he said, well, you don't start off thinking you're going to get the answer, but the answer will find you by the end. And I think a lot of things in the Bible, you look and you're like, God, I don't want to do this. Like, I really don't want to do X, Y, and Z. But then you do it, and then you learn it after it's done, of just learning the obedience. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think there's 2 things really. I think first thing is like, so I'm assuming you go to church, right?
Of course.
Yeah, so you go to church and it helps you, I'm assuming. It helps you in your life, and it helps you with the community and happiness and a variety of things. I think
Of course.
the way to explain it and the way to understand it is, I think for me, there's parts in my religion, my culture, that I do and that helps me. There's parts that don't. So I do the things that help me, and I do everything that I can for it. But then there's specific things that I don't agree with that I just don't do. So for you, you wouldn't agree with bowing 10,000 times for 3 months, because that doesn't make sense. So therefore you wouldn't do it. For me, there's rules that you says you shouldn't take drugs or alcohol. I very much disagree with that. So therefore I don't do it. So there's rules and things that's put in place for certain reasons. So you can look at the rules and you go, okay, do I agree with this? Do I not? Things in Judaism that they're very against homosexuality. That's completely okay. That's fine for them to do. But I personally don't agree with that. So I disagree with those sorts of things, because it helps me. It helps me for things like drugs and alcohol, helps me in my life. So therefore, I do the things that helps me, and I don't do the things that don't help me.
Does Buddhism say anything about homosexuality?
Not that I've read. There hasn't been any scriptures that explicitly say, okay, this is or isn't okay. And if it was that I were to find out that they're very, very much against it, that wouldn't really affect me at all.
You mean you would still be okay with it? Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, that's interesting. So you have your internal moral compass, and you're using it to decide for what you're. Okay, that's interesting. That's respectable. I kind of thought that the idea of Buddhism is to like escape pain by also giving up of pleasures, so that it's kind of like maybe I'm explaining this in a different kind of way. This is just my take, because if you have very highs and lows as far as pleasure and pain, then that kind of having that big of a dichotomy might cause you some kind of problems. So if you're living like a monk, for example, and you're not eating, you know, a delicious food, and you're not going out and partying and sleeping around or whatever, like you just kind of have like this kind of like this mundane existence. So it's going to be hard to experience huge losses, like for example losing a job or something like that. Yeah. So that is kind of been my take, because from what I understand about Buddhism, Buddha was a prince and he was spared from seeing any kind of suffering. And then he actually got out of the castle one day and he went out and started exploring and started seeing suffering and stuff. And it kind of like freaked him out, because he was like a teenager or maybe like a 20
Yeah.
years old or something. That's accurate.
Hmm.
So he's trying to transcend it. He's trying to transcend it. So part of the way in which you do that is, I guess, you also like physically punishing yourself. For example, like not eating a lot. He has said to, like, eat very little. Or can you tell me what your take on that is about pain and suffering and about avoiding it, or what?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different things. There's a lot of different things to unpack there. So I think first thing is, it's not about eating to cause suffering. There's specific things like, at certain times when I'm practicing and I'm trying to focus and I'm trying to concentrate. So for example, it's a very common practice for people when they're working, they put their phone aside and they like block all their emails and things, so they can just work on, okay, I'm writing a book, I'm doing nothing but that. So the reason that for some people, I especially practice it, of I don't eat at certain times, so that I don't think about, okay, what's this really, really nice steak that I've just had? And my body's sort of calmer and there's nothing to think about, in a sense of, it's another thing that I do, that I don't wear any clothes when I'm practicing. Of there's certain times when I don't want to feel the fabric on my skin because it's a distraction of things. I go into a massive field that's 5 minutes from my house, and there's no cars, there's no electricity, there's nothing there. It's just a massive field, and it makes me calmer. It gives me less things to think about, because when you have desire, when you have a sports car, you're always looking for the next one. You're always going to have more desire, essentially. So it's kind of, it's separating yourself from wants and needs and desires, because that's what we are essentially as humans. We want to exceed and we want new things. We want bigger and better things. And it's kind of just to take away from that. It's not really about the suffering part of it.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. I want to close off with two things real quick. I really appreciate your input very much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Okay, so one thing is, whenever I went into the Buddhist temple, you have an eating ritual, and whenever you go to clean up, they have like 4 bowls. One bowl has rice, one bowl has like a little bit of soup, and then one has like some radishes, and other one has some like small vegetables. So after you eat all your food, got to eat all your food, but you take your chopsticks. Okay, do you know how to use chopsticks?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna say, if you're not Buddhist, if you're Buddhist, you don't know how to use chopsticks, gotta learn. But anyway, you take the radish and you pour a little bit of water in there, and you clean it with a piece of radish. Okay, then you take that bowl. They're kind of like bigger bowls, right? They get bigger. So you pour it into the next one, and then you clean that one with the kind of leftover water, and then you pour it into the big one, So you clean everything with the radish. And I knew another girl who went and meditated in Myanmar. Okay, she was there. She told me like 3 months, and so for 3 months she didn't speak. Okay, so that's one thing, you don't speak. And then you have to do everything in slow motion. So for example, if this is my chopstick and I get the food, it would be like this.
Yeah, so they do everything really slowly.
And so she told me that, I think she said like after a month of doing that, not talking, and she had to shave her hair. So she had relatively short hair at the time. but she told me that everything slowed down. She said like she could see the flapping of of a of a of a butterfly's wing. She could like see the
Mhm.
so hey, you know what? Speaking of daughter, I want to. She's Leah's. Leah, come here, baby. My daughter's made a few cameos on these podcasts. So you know, that being said, I normally have an atheist co-host. I still feel like I have more questions to ask you. So if you wouldn't mind, I would like to do a part two with you because I
Yeah.
find you to be a very interesting chap. Look. Oh, so what's chap? Chap's like a guy, dude.
Yeah, chaps, just like, I mean, it's all kind of the same thing. It's just a person or a friend.
What about a lad? A lad is a young guy.
So a lad is like a different kind of word. There's like a lot of different meaning to it. A lad is sort of just, how to explain it? It's kind of just like a college football guy, um probably in like a frat house. He's sort of just like a guy with the lads. Um
The
Basically of
lads.
like, yeah, like something like that. I've got kind of just like a frat house guy. Um Essentially, I don't, yeah, that's basically the equivalent of like how I'd explain it.
Yeah, so you know the reason why I know all of these British words is because and slangs is because I've worked with some Brits and some people from Canada and Australia, so I've got to talk to them and learned the words that you guys use and or even some of it's different for Australia. Like they use the word
Yeah.
Sheila. Sheila means a woman
Mhm.
and um, a woman, and so yeah, it's interesting, but you know, I just like to learn from different people.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think
Can I just ask really quick?
sure.
What's your day job?
So I teach a little bit of English, but I'm also do missions work here in South Korea.
Okay.
So
Pretty cool.
uh, yeah, I do some teaching, but I also teach like history and literature.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I do a bit of that. I also do you know, reaching people. I raise a little bit of support here for because I'm doing missions work here in South Korea, spreading the gospel, telling people about Jesus Christ, the work He's done in my
Okay.
life, and
Interesting.
um, but I just have a lot less confrontational approach to it. I'm like, you guys are idiots. Like, you guys are all going to hell. You guys need to do this. That's not really the kind of
Yeah.
conversations I like to have. It's like, I definitely do believe this is the right way. In fact, I know it's the right way. I've experienced Jesus Christ in a very real way in my life,
Hmm.
and I do believe it can help people. But that's not to say I don't think that Buddhism can't help you. You know, in fact, I know it can. I know it can
Yeah.
help. I know it can help people because the principles are like transferable. Okay, like for example, um, you know, just for example, like not being materialistic, you know, that those are very, very similar principles inside of Christianity.
Hmm.
Buddha had this thought, this concept of like not doing harm to other people, and that I think that's a really good first step. Like, uh, I don't want to harm anyone as a Christian, but I tell people, Christ says like, get out of your closet, and that's like one of my beefs with Buddhism because these yogas to me, they have kind of like a closet religion. It's their religion for themselves. It benefits them, but you
Yeah,
don't see
kind
them
of.
going out and helping out others. So I've heard they'll go and they'll meditate on like compassion or love for years. And I'm like, well, if you're not doing anything with that, then you're just mentally understanding it. So for me, I like to put my faith into action. And the way I
Interesting. Yeah, I never
the,
thought about it that way.
the way I tell people this is that I say, before I tell you that Jesus loves you, I want to show you that I love you first. You know, I want to show concern for people. I want to show love, and telling you that you're an idiot or that you're a, you know, you're just a sinner or whatever. I think we're all sinful. I'm a sinner. I guarantee I'm as sinful as any other person out there. I put money on that. I bet money on that. But
Okay.
when you understand grace, that you have grace, that you have forgiveness and a second chance, and for me, it saved my life. It's reunited me with my wife. It's given me a daughter. My daughter, she got pregnant the night I got back here to South Korea. So, but you know, I also I want to I want people to hear me out. So, in order for them to hear me out, I want to first and foremost hear where you're coming from. So I think you did a very good job to articulate yourself today, young man.
Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, we'll definitely talk about your views on like sort of, would you call it evangelical Christianism?
No.
Or what type is it?
Well, first of all, just in general, I don't like getting caught up in labels. So I believe in Jesus Christ. I do not care one way or the other about a denomination or any ism or istites or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't get caught up in. I get caught up in loving people. Like that's the one theological thing I'm going to get caught up is on loving people, is on serving people. So I'll let the theologians debate all this other stuff because trust me, they like to debate each other. They like to debate atheists, but they also Christians are hardest on each other. Trust me when I tell you that.
Okay, well, yeah, I'd really like to know your opinions on like this sort of thing because I'm sort of like the other end of the spectrum of I specifically don't talk about my religion and especially like my political views or my views in like the wider general context of life. But if you believe that you want to share all of your experience and your wisdom with this, I'd really want to know more about that next time.
Sure. Well, I really, really want to thank you for joining me. I'm going to give you the option of 3 things right now because we're going to make a donation in your name. So you have 3 different choices. 1 is going to be school supplies in Africa. 2 will be peace organization between Israel and Palestine. It's like former reformed terrorists work with family members of Israelis who have been killed by terrorists, and they work together for peace. And then the other one is anti-bullying campaign. Maybe that's probably more up your alley.
Yeah, I think anti-bullying campaigns is, I think it's a real hypocrisy of you have so much bullying in America, but then you have so many school shootings. I'm like, do you not see that this is like clearly linked between each other? But yeah, I think definitely towards that would be amazing.
Yeah, well, it's a really big issue for me because my daughter is Korean and there's a lot of bullying. So it's definitely not bullying exists everywhere. But in South Korea, what they do, they bully people to the point that they kill themselves. So it's a very big issue for me. So with that being said, I really want to thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing you back at the next episode of RIG Podcast. If you're not subscribed, please do so, and be sure to leave us a comment below about the next topic that you'd like to see us discuss. And with that being said, good day. Good day, mates.
Good day. Good.